Entrepreneurs, inventors, business people, heed my warning. Hey, I'm Charles Arthur Blunt with the LA Health X, and I'm a product developer, personal trainer, inventor, and entrepreneur. And today I want to talk about the Dashaway mobility system. So you've probably seen some of these walkers around now in the last couple of years that have the upright supports where you hold yourself up. Well, this is where that came from. This is the Dashaway, the original Dashaway. This is one of the few left. And I am where this came from. So this is a story to warn you about some of the things that you can end up doing and spending your time on as a company and as a product if you're just starting out and you're trying to bring something together and bring something to market. So I hope this helps some of you people out there. I know it would have helped me. And so first of all, I want to let you know that this device was made for an individual. And that individual was my client. His name was Stanley. And Stanley had degenerative scoliosis. He had Parkinson's disease. He was 88 years old when I made the first Dashaway. And so I took an existing device that had four wheels on it. A four-wheeled rollator is what they're called. This is also categorized as a rollator. And so all those devices you see with the four wheels on them are rollators. And so I took a regular rollator and I attached these uprights to it that were for something else. And I took it to a bike shop and I had some bike engineers attach these uprights to it and move the brake handles to the uprights on it where he could use the brakes from that position, because I knew that Stanley could get out of pain and get his mobility back if I could get him upright and out of bed. Stanley was on 11 Vicodin per day. It was clear that a lot of people had given up on him. He was bedridden, and he kept begging me for a solution. So I came up with this based on my experience in a back and neck pain clinic. I knew that a vertical knee raise from the gym, where you hang your legs from the vertical knee raise and you lift your knees, that works as a decompression device. And I thought if I could get the device made and set it at a certain height, he could unweigh his spine while he was walking around, so it would offer him decompression, pain relief, traction while he was just walking around, and we could get him out of pain, get the nerve swelling to go down, and get him back on his feet again. And it worked, and it worked so well that Stanley wanted to go into business with me, a young entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur. He having built several businesses in the past, one including what became every credit card company in existence today. He is one of the pioneers of the credit card banking industry. And I'll show you an homage we did to that on the device in just a little bit. You want to stay tuned for that. So essentially, we had this first device. We knew it worked. It turned out it was a really great platform for rehab and exercise. I work a lot with neurological patients, and this was a perfect way for me to work with Stanley, get him upright, and then add all kinds of different exercises to it that were unique to the original device. So Stanley wanted to make it. I had been involved with inventing a little bit, and I knew enough about it to know that we were going to have a hard time patenting this upright forearm mechanism. And so the reason for that is patents are very, very specific. Okay, so they're very specific to the actual functional component of the device. Usually, if your device has a challenge in it, how you're going to make it, that challenge becomes your intellectual property or patent. Okay, so we had the first device. He wanted to go into production. I started drawing and drafting some ideas. You're going to see this first image that I drew in 2006, and this is a crude drawing. And so you'll see here what I did is I made the device two devices in one. And so the idea there was, don't just have the upright that's holding the person up, have a traditional mobility device as well, where you can adjust the arms on it, use it as an existing rollator, and then use it as this upright support device offering traction in all these things, essentially two in one. And I did that 100% out of fear. I was scared to death that we were going to start this thing and we didn't have enough to get a patent on it for the intellectual property. and then we're just sitting ducks for anybody to copy us. Well, that mentality ended up biting me, and I'm going to explain to you how that happened and why that happened. So we started off with the crude drawing I showed you, and then we brought in a young engineer that helped us craft the modern look, which is what you see here, okay? The modern look is the larger wheel in front, smaller wheel in the back, and we got the casters in the front. We have a fixed wheel in the back, and it is, by all accounts, a very modern look to one of these devices. Nobody had ever seen anything like this when we first did it. So what I did then is I sat with a draftsman, and I had to come up with every position on this thing, the height of it, the length of it. We had to test it to make sure it wouldn't flip over or flip sideways. There were a lot of problems with having somebody upright in it, and the taller the person was compared to the base of the wheels, more likely it is that it could tip. So we had to measure all these things and get it right and understand the height requirements. So we knew the tallest person that could use it, and it was really irrelevant how short that person would be, just depending on making sure we had the arms going that low. So we had a new modern look. I sat with the draftsman and came up with every measurement, every millimeter, which became this device you see here. And then we started getting a little carried away, all right? So when you first see this device and when you first saw it, what did you think? First thing you thought was, it's got these uprights on it, and you immediately knew what that means, is that it's going to hold you up. You're going to put your forearms in it, and you can see how this thing's going to hold you up when you're walking around. So if you were somebody who was faced with a mobility issue, and you knew you had the upper body strength to hold yourself up, you take one look at this thing and know it was going to help you. And so there are a lot of things built into this, and I'm going to explain to you what all is built into this, and then I'm going to tell you why it didn't matter at all, okay? So at this point, it's now 2025. That first drawing was done in 2006. As of about 3 or 4 years ago, I started seeing multiple ripoffs of this product, okay? So this company is now gone, the one I'm showing you. It does not exist anymore. And there are, at least by my count, 12 different knockoffs. And it was a race straight to the bottom to see who could have the cheapest device with the uprights on it. So I'm going to explain to you now what all is involved with this device, the mistakes we made, what we could have done different, and how all this happened. How did we come up with such a revolutionary design and end up out of business within 2 years? I'm going to explain that to you right now. So first of all, this device is adjustable. Look at that. Pretty cool, huh? So both of these uprights can flip down. And so a person could use this as a regular device. So you could put your arms here and walk around with it. Well, it's a cool idea, but nobody cared because nobody's buying it for that. Anybody who was buying this thing is buying it for the same reason you thought it was different and unique when you first saw it, and that is that it's got the uprights on it and it'll hold you up. So this is irrelevant. So we worked with some engineers and came up with a single point adjustment system. So we had to get the angle just right. Imagine the engineering getting the angle just right where this is at the perfect angle when it's down and it's at the perfect angle when it's up. All right. It's a lot of time. That's a lot of engineering. Okay. That probably took months to do. And so also because of it being adjustable, there's what you call slop in it. All right. So slop just means this thing is going to chatter around and it's not going to be fixed unless you come up with a solution for it. So we took this solution. It's called a quick pin from spinning. Spinning bikes, Peloton bikes, they all have these quick pins on them where when the button snaps in or when the pin snaps in, you can tighten it up and take the slop out of the unit. All right. A lot of time, a lot of engineering. This pull pin even has our name on it. Okay. It's a customized dash away pull pin. All right. So ergonomic forearm rest. We had to get the durometer just right, which is the how much cushion is in this forearm piece. Everything is calibrated for a reason. We worked with experts in biomechanics of the forearm when we developed this. And so this is also a default brake. All right, what that means is when you squeeze this brake handle, it lets go. It means it allows it to move. It's the opposite of what you're used to. You're used to when you squeeze a brake handle, it'll stop the unit, okay? Not with this unit, okay? We put this fancy default braking system on here that nobody cares about, all right? So when you pull this, it releases the braking mechanism and allows the device to move. Now, it's also a safety feature that if someone's not actively pulling the grips, that it will stop. And then another hidden jewel there too, I know as a kinesiologist, that if you're squeezing that grip, you're stabilizing the arm more for the weight you're delivering down through it. So there's a hidden gem there, and there's some other hidden gems. So we got this forearm piece here. This is amazing, revolutionary. This is the first device of its type. This is an upright support device, and it was actually made to be spring-loaded with this angle to unload a person's spine. So when Stanley would put his weight down into the unit would effectively push back and allow him to unweigh his spine even more. And again, you know, it's not why people buy it. It's a great thing to talk about, but people intuitively see what it does just by looking at the forearm piece. And this braking mechanism is extremely sophisticated and runs through a switch box in the front, underneath the front cover, which you can't see. Highly complex, hard to manufacture, hard to adjust. I mean, there are about 15 parts to that thing down there. And when this thing is off, it takes a really skilled engineer to adjust it. Okay. Really cool, really interesting, really amazing. Nobody's buying it for that. They're just not. It's a fun thing to talk about, but that's not why they would ever buy it. So we've got the upright component. We've got the 2-in-1. We've got the default braking system through the switch box. We've got the seat, which you can adjust out of the way. There's a bag under here where you can, as Stanley used to say, you could put your booze and your pot in there. And so this thing's on a track and you pull it back into position so you can turn and sit in it like traditional mobility devices, okay? You see most of them that are rollators have the seat where you can turn around and sit in it. So the next thing we're going to come to is my least favorite part about the device, and that is how it folds, okay? So this device folds by pushing down on this spring arm mechanism, and you fold the legs inside, okay? So you fold the legs inside, and you tuck the legs underneath, and it becomes, you know, about a third of its size, and it makes it easier to put away in a car, but it's still kind of hard to put in a car. And one of the big things I learned in developing mobility equipment is that there are primarily three reasons why people buy them, okay? When somebody buys a device, they buy it because it's inexpensive or free, it's lightweight, and easy to fold. Well, in the 9th hour, once we had our device and I understood more about the industry, I learned that our device is expensive, heavy, and hard to fold. So we struck out in all three, but the fact that it would hold someone up who may not otherwise be able to do so, that overrode some of that, and it made some people want to buy it. Now, we have a lot of parts on here that were used a few times. You'll see this part right here, if you can get a good look at that, is the same part as this, is the same part as this. So we used it 3 different places. So in manufacturing, you want to do that as often as you can. And so we've got quick pin here, and up here, this is where it's the same component, but welded to it is the forearm rest. We have multiple adjustment peg holes back here. And this thing, the actual upright on it is carved out in front. This is extruded, so it's run through a machine. So it has this special V inside of it that's very unique. And when you tighten the quick pin, it forces the V into another V and tightens it up. Very sophisticated mechanism. And again, making the Dashaway probably one of the most over-engineered mobility devices in history. So the product is made out of aluminum, and we made it in California, and this was where we really struck out. It was really stupid to make this thing in the U.S. It was a bad idea. The original unit cost $700 to make, which means we had to sell it for over $2,000 to even contemplate running a company. We just couldn't do it. The money wasn't there. So I want to talk a little bit about the mistakes we made and what I would have done different. Okay. So we had a meeting early on, and I was speaking with an individual who worked with a lot of senior care facilities, and he kept warning us about some device he knew prior that had over-engineered. Okay. And he kept saying it over and over again. I'm like, this guy's trying to tell us something. He thinks we've over-engineered this device, which we clearly did. Now, if this device was for sale on the market for $700 and we were making it for $150, then it would have been viable. But because we were making it for $700 and had to sell it for around $2,000, it's just not going to work. And there are all kinds of limitations to manufacturing in the U.S. There are a lot of steps involved with aluminum and this type of frame that required very specialized techniques, ways to dry the frames, ways to transport them, ways to paint them. A certain percentage of the aluminum had to be recycled. Like it literally was like 90% of it had to be recycled to meet the standards to manufacture in California. Our manufacturer is no longer in business in California, and they've made a lot of somewhat famous products prior that eventually ended up in Asia being manufactured. So the really amazing thing about the device is the upright component. All right, let's talk about what we did wrong. Okay, making the 2-in-1, big strikeout. Nobody cares about the 2-in-1. I was in love with the idea, and I get excited about it, and it was easy for me to pitch it because people would pick up on my excitement, but the consumer didn't care. They only cared about the upright part because they could see that it would hold them up better than an existing device. So big mistake, 2-in-1. Irrelevant, didn't matter. Second mistake, the folding mechanism. I did not like the fold ever. And one of the issues you have in collaborating with a lot of different people is you start to lose your voice. And I had spent a lot of time with a draftsman on a Sunday designing a whole new fold. It was a single action fold where you lift it up and the legs fold underneath it and snap into place. And I got into a meeting on Monday and they were like, no, we've already figured it out. We're going to do it this way. And I mean, they had friends that were making these components that allowed it to fold. I mean, they'd already gotten other people involved and everybody's wanting to help everybody else out. And it just diluted the whole idea. So sometimes there's a benefit in staying small and being the only person really calling the shots, because you start to lose your voice, especially if you have a vision for the product, which I'll admit I had kind of the wrong vision for the product because of the 2-in-1. Nobody cared. All right, so 2-in-1, big mistake. The folding mechanism, big mistake. It should have been more single action, folded underneath. This thing can trap your hand in it if you don't fold it right. You know, you don't want that. Other big mistake, the default brakes. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. It could have been just a regular brake. We would have been done with it like that. Probably cut $100 off of production domestically. And you know, we did some fancy things too, like we put real rubber wheels on it. In the knockoffs have done like just a cheap polyurethane wheel. So those were the big mistakes I'll admit to. and combined with making it in the U.S. So the fold at the bottom, the flip at the top, the 2-in-1. Making it in the U.S. was a big, big, big mistake. We could have sent the production prototype to Taiwan, which is where technical stuff is made, worked with their engineers and had a production prototype within a month or two, and been in business with a unit that cost $500 or $600. It cost $100 to make in retail for $500 or $600, and we would have been in business, and we would still be in business because of that. Because we manufactured in the U.S., the cost was prohibitive. Even when people loved it, a lot of people couldn't afford it. Medicare pays. Also, understand how people purchase these things when you're getting into a market. Understand, be from that industry is probably a good idea, because a walker, the government, Medicare will pay $150 for a rollator. And so they essentially, what they do is they make these devices for $40, $30, even less, and Medicare will pay for it, and then Medicare will pay for a new one every three years when they break. And guess what? They build them to break about every 3 years. So the whole industry is geared around how these devices are sold, and then how often Medicare and insurance will allow for a new one to be purchased. So that's how wild this industry is. And so let's talk about what we could have done different. All right. What I certainly would have done different. Looking back now, I would have made a device with just the uprights on it. I would have had a different fold. First of all, I would have made just the uprights, and then I would have used most of the engineering from an existing 4-wheel rollator, because those people have already done that engineering. That engineering has already been done. Okay. All you need to focus on is the upright, and then making sure it's strong enough and implementing what's called value engineering. So value engineering is where you would take something that was a lot of metal, and they engineer it where there are more plastic components, but they do it in a way where it's strong enough and it's cheaper to make it, and the manufacturing process is cheaper. That's value engineering. And so I would have focused on the upright. I would have used a different fold, probably used an existing rollator design, and just found a way to make it an upright device, used a regular brake, made it in Asia for $50 to $100, thrown some more unique things on there, like a bag and that kind of thing, and been in business. As this was too expensive, hard to fold, and too heavy. Now, is it an incredible device? Yeah, I mean, this device was probably made 15 years ago. I mean, it looks amazing now. It functions amazing now because it was made well. Did that create a viable business? No. And the other part of this, too, is the psychological part. So the psychological component to this is I was very motivated to create a product that was helping people. And the idea of helping people and being able to start a business and having helped Stanley, all of these things really motivated me to stay involved with the company beyond the point when I knew it probably was not going to work. So one of the things I like to say when it comes to inventing and building a business and building a company around a product is 1 plus half of 1 plus good intentions does not equal 2. So what that means is you could have all the good intentions in the world, and it could seem like such an amazing thing to be working on, and you could feel like the karma of the whole experience is great and good, and how could it possibly go wrong? But the reality is math. So if the math doesn't pencil out, it's not going to work. And so anyway, that's my 2 to 3 cents. That's my 1 plus 1 equals 2 on the Dashaway. And other things I want to point out about the device is this individual that this was made for, that I made this for, started the credit card banking industry. And when we named this product the Dashaway, I don't know if you can see it. We'll take a picture and put it on the video. We took the logo from the old credit card industry, the credit card company, and added these symbols that are synonymous with health, caduceus, and brought his logo back from the 50s. I mean, that was the 50s. And this was, this is the 2000s that we did this. So again, it was an amazing thing to have worked on and done, a very interesting person to have helped and done business with. But we made some costly mistakes. At the end of the day, the company essentially was shifted to someone else for nothing, and we had spent upwards of $1.2 million on it when we could have gotten through a production prototype for probably less than $100,000, easily less. I'd say probably $30,000, and would have had units in the box and ready to rumble. Also, my business partner wanted to be in close proximity to the manufacturing and wanted to have something to do with it, and it gave him something to do, and it was kind of his entertainment, and it was his money, but it really ruined the possibility of it becoming a viable business. And I certainly couldn't leave the company and do the same thing and, pick up on my own. It just, it wouldn't have been an honest thing to do, as much as I love the idea. So those mistakes were crippling, highly over-engineered, too much customization. What people really wanted was the upright mechanism. We could have focused on that, and we would have had a viable business. But it's a great story, and you'll see this picture right now. I just took this picture 2 weeks ago. This is a device you're going to see. It looks a lot like this one, and it's almost exactly by specification the same as this one. And again, there are 11, 12 plus of these knockoffs, but the one in this image is the company we had actually met with that picked up where we left off after we closed the company. And it is exactly the same specifications, the same look as this device, but they made it work because they made it in Asia, and they're probably making that device for less than $100, and they're selling it for $500, and they're able to help more people. So on one hand, it's a big disappointment. I went through a lot of psychological and emotional issues after leaving that company because it was something so important to me. And it was a devastating experience, financially devastating. I'd put a lot of time and my money into it and ignored other things. And we had to close that company down, and I had to move on. And but it does feel nice to know that what I came up with has been helping a lot of people. And I see it all the time helping a lot of people. And I just kind of grin to myself and think, wow, that was something I did. So I'm happy about that. So at the end of this presentation, which is now, I am hoping that I'm going to follow up with this video with a product that I created and thought of while I was working on this. And it is technically a lot better, and there's scientific reasons why it's better, and it's a lot more affordable for people, and it's going to help a lot of people. So hopefully in the next 6 months, this is February of 2025, I'll be doing a demonstration showing you the new product that's going to help a lot more people and is a lot more affordable and easier for people to get. So I thought I'd share this with you. It was an interesting experience. It was many years of my life, and it's unfortunate that it didn't work out as a business. I learned a lot. It was, again, financially, emotionally, psychologically devastating to walk away from something that meant so much to me. But I'm not done yet. And hopefully this new product is going to be out and it's going to help a lot of people. And what I learned from this is going to help me reach out to even more folks. So thanks for watching. I hope this helps some of you. If you are an entrepreneur, you're in business, you're a designer, you're an inventor, you can reach out to me. Again, my name is Charles Arthur Blunt. I'm not hard to find. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. And you'll be able to find me at the LA Health Experience. So thanks a lot for listening. Again, I hope this helped. Thanks.